let me introduce Thomas, because some of you might be here thinking, what's all the fuss about? You've been dragged here maybe and thinking, what on earth does 500 people on a rainy, stormy night want to come out and see a chef? Well, let me tell you why you're here. He's a native of California. I'm just going to give a little background while Thomas gathers himself there, and I find my feet here on this, I'm not as tall as Thomas. He started early working in restaurants in Palm Beach, managed by his mother, with stints in Rhode Island, Florida, and the Catskills. Then Chef moved to France in 1983, where he worked in several Michelin-starred restaurants. In 1986, he moved back to New York and opened his first restaurant. No, did you open your first restaurant?
Yeah.
He did.
More or less.
The cult of the West Coast proved irresistible, and Thomas moved to Los Angeles as executive chef at the Checkers Hotel in 1991. 3 years later, he opened French Laundry in Yountville in 1994. There are now 9 restaurants in 4 cities in America. The cookbooks were not far behind. In 1999, the French Laundry cookbook was published, followed by Bouchon, Under Pressure, Ad Hoc at Home, and the latest, which we're celebrating tonight, the Bouchon Bakery. The only one left, as everybody has done the math, right, and the counting off their fingers, is Per Se, but we'll wait patiently for that one, because we know it means a return visit from Thomas, right?
Yes.
Chef has received many accolades over his career, from Michelin, James Beard Foundation, Bon Appetit, Food and Wine magazine, as well as the prestigious top 50 restaurants of the world. In 2011, you were presented with the Esteemed Chevalier in the French Legion of Honor, and it was presented to you by Paul Bocuse. That must be, I mean, to me that's just awesome. That was a little aside there. This spring, he was honored with the Lifetime Achievement Award. You have reached that point in your career, Lifetime Achievements, from Restaurant Magazine's top 50 restaurants in the world. And who can forget my favorite part of your career, your consulting work to one of my favorite movies, Ratatouille. But this year, you decided to step away from the kitchen, from the daily toil of running restaurants, as close as a chef can come to saying retirement. So here you are now, ready to teach, ready to engage the young chefs, and also, as you said, if we're not truly working to raise the standards of our profession, then we're not really doing our job. Welcome to Toronto, Thomas.
Thank you. It's good to be back. I'm a little hoarse, so anyway, I'll make it through. I certainly want to thank Alison for being here again on stage. We were here last time. Who was here 3 years ago? Can you raise your hand again? Here, let's see. So, minuscule amount of you were here. Okay, so good. Well, we have some new people, so we can talk about the same stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, I feel guilty about, saying it over again.
Exactly.
It's all good. We practice that. I want to thank, certainly everybody here at the theater for having us. It's a great theater. Josh.
Yep, Josh.
At the cookbook store, and Melita for taking care of me so well today from Thomas Allen. I want to thank all of you for coming out today. It's really extraordinary to be sitting up here and having so many of you come to listen and be interested in who I am and what I have to say. So it's really quite, it's quite flattering. It's quite overwhelming. It's one of those moments where you kind of have to pinch yourself and say, who are you, and why are you here? But I also want to talk just briefly about the book, because how many of you think I'm a pastry chef?
Oh, they got that.
Good. No, because I'm not. And we just wrote a book on baking. And I can bake a little bit. I've done it in the past. I'm working about pastry. I know less about bread baking. Of course, that's in the book as well. But the other name on that cover is a gentleman named Sebastian Ruxel, who's not with us tonight, who's been with me for 14 years, who is a pastry chef, and a very accomplished pastry chef. A gentleman who has great skills and great knowledge, and continues, as I do, trying to perpetuate our profession and trying to find better ways of doing things. And I'm very proud that this is his book, more or less. It's probably more than less. The less part is probably Matthew McDonald, who is our head baker in Yountville. Again, one of those young American artisanal bakers. And I don't know how many of you actually are bakers or know bakers, but if you do, they're quirky personalities. But Matthew is extraordinary, which was basically 4 ingredients all the time. Flour, salt, water, and yeast. And sometimes it doesn't even have to work with yeast, and Napa Valley there's a lot of yeast in the air. So, and that is not an exact science, but pastry is an exact science. You've got these two individuals, you know, on polar ends of their job, where Sebastian's always about those equations, and Matthew's always about that feel. And it's extraordinary for me to have two gentlemen like that involved in our restaurant group, but also, you know, really the catalyst behind this book, and both of them being able to share with all of you, and certainly that anybody who picks the book up, their expertise. So, there you go.
I think they're superfluous here. Getting back to the book then, no. But I wanted to ask the audience quickly, how many of you actually work in a restaurant or in the food business in some form or another?
Quite a few.
Quite a few of you. And how many have actually eaten at a Keller establishment? Quite a few of you. See, they paid the rent in some of those places. Getting back to the book though, because baking, as you said, is an exact science. And in this book, I was delighted to see the weights used, because that's very important. Every kitchen should have a good set of scales. Did you find, and you've got the cups though as well in there.
Which forget about it, by the way.
Yeah.
It's only in there, because the publisher made us put it in there.
That was one of my questions. Did they make you put it in there?
Yeah, you know, well, publishers get a little bit, they're still a little bit stuck in the days, and they want to make sure that they're, you know, give everybody the opportunity, and their point is, well, not everybody has a scale. You know,
No.
my point is, well, then they should have one, right?
Do you?
You don't buy a scale. You don't have a scale, don't buy a scale.
Do you find when you do recipes for the restaurant, like your books, I find that each time you do a new book, I can make more out of them, thank you.
Good.
But being a home cook and not a professional cook. But what I'd like to ask though is when you develop your recipes for the cookbook, do you find it challenging though trying to make them accessible to the home cook?
I have no idea who the home cook is, actually. So we're not really trying to write a cookbook for you, because I really don't know who you are. And what I mean by that is I know some home cooks who can barely boil water, and I know some other home cooks who are almost as good as I am, you know. And so how do you write a book for that spectrum of population? It's just impossible to write that kind of book. So we really write the book for ourselves, and we want to make sure that what's represented in the book is coming from either our restaurant, or in this case, you know, from the baker. And we struggle with writing recipes for, you know, for our cookbooks, other than in this one, or actually Under Pressure as well, which is written for professionals, so it's all about grammar as well. And all of you who work in restaurants know how to work with a metric system, and it's so much easier. And so in this book, you'll see in here where, you know, there's 152 grams. And that's a result of reducing Sebastian's recipes from large quantities to a smaller quantity. And equate the division of that resulted in something like 152 grams. And Susie, you know, who's the executive producer of all of our cookbooks, and really makes sure that it's accessible or reads well for an average cook. I don't think she's an average cook, but, you know, certainly she's somebody who doesn't work in a restaurant and understands how to write books, because she's written not only all of ours, but many others. You know, she would ask Sebastian, well, can't we just, you know, like round it off to 150 or 155? Well, no, you can't, because then if you start to multiply it up, you know,
you're in big trouble.
Right, you're going to be in big trouble, because, you know, if you multiply it by 10, all of a sudden, you know, you could be 20 or 30 or 40 grams over what the recipe actually calls for, and that's going to make a big difference in the recipe.